Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into the life of a figure so monumental, his name still echoes through history nearly 2,400 years later. Alexander the Great. Was he a visionary genius, a ruthless conqueror, or something else entirely? Let's find out. Our story begins in 356 BC in Macedon, a rugged kingdom in northern Greece. Prince Alexander was born to King Philip II and the fiery Queen Olympias. From the start, he was no ordinary child. His mother told him he was descended from the mythical hero Achilles, and this belief in a divine destiny would fuel his ambition for his entire life. But destiny needs a little help, and Alexander's came from one of the greatest minds in history. When Alexander was just 13, his father hired none other than the philosopher Aristotle to be his tutor. For 3 years, Aristotle taught him everything: rhetoric, literature, science, medicine, and philosophy. This wasn't just schooling. It was the forging of a mind. Aristotle instilled in him a love for knowledge and a curiosity about the world that would later lead him to the furthest corners of the known world. In 336 BC, tragedy struck. King Philip II was assassinated, and at the tender age of 20, Alexander ascended to the throne. Many of the Greek city-states, long subdued by his father, saw this as their chance to rebel. They thought a young, inexperienced king would be easy to overthrow. They were wrong. In a lightning-fast campaign, Alexander marched south, crushing rebellions with brutal efficiency. To make a terrifying example, he razed the city of Thebes to the ground, selling its population into slavery. The message was clear. Alexander was in charge. With Greece firmly under his control, Alexander turned his eyes to the east, to the one great goal his father never achieved: the conquest of the mighty Persian Empire. This was the superpower of the age, a colossal empire stretching from Egypt to India, ruled by King Darius III. In 334 BC, with an army of about 40,000 Macedonians and Greeks, Alexander crossed into Asia Minor. It seemed like an impossible task. The Persian army was many times larger, fighting on its own turf. But Alexander had a secret weapon: tactical brilliance. At the Battle of the Granicus River, his first major clash with the Persians, he led a daring cavalry charge directly across the river and up a steep bank, smashing into the enemy lines and causing a complete rout. It was a victory against all odds and set the tone for the entire campaign. A year later, at the Battle of Issus, Alexander found himself vastly outnumbered again. But he spotted a weakness. King Darius himself was commanding from the center of the Persian line. In a move of sheer audacity, Alexander led his elite companion cavalry in a wedge formation straight at Darius. Panic seized the Persian king. He fled the battlefield, and his entire army collapsed in his wake. Alexander had not only won the battle, but he had captured Darius's mother, wife, and children, whom he treated with surprising respect and honor. Instead of chasing Darius immediately, Alexander made a strategic move. He marched south along the Mediterranean coast, securing the vital naval bases of the Persian fleet. This led him to the island city of Tyre, which refused to surrender. What did Alexander do? He ordered his engineers to build a massive causeway, a land bridge, nearly a kilometer long through the sea to the city walls. After a brutal 7-month siege, Tyre fell. This incredible feat of engineering showed the world that nothing, not even the sea itself, would stand in his way. From there, he entered Egypt. The Egyptians, who had long resented Persian rule, welcomed him not as a conqueror, but as a liberator. They crowned him pharaoh and declared him a son of the god Amun. It was here, at the mouth of the Nile, that he founded the most famous of the many cities that would bear his name: Alexandria. He envisioned it as a great center of trade, culture, and learning, a vision that would be realized beyond his wildest dreams. Finally, in 331 BC, Alexander was ready for the final showdown. He marched into the heart of Persia, and on the plains of Gaugamela, he met Darius for the last time. The Persian king had assembled an immense army with scythed chariots and war elephants, determined to crush the Macedonian upstart once and for all. The battle that followed is a masterclass in military strategy. Alexander used a complex formation, deliberately opening a gap in his own line to lure the Persian cavalry in, then executed a perfectly timed flank attack, once again charging directly at Darius. And once again, Darius fled. The battle was won, and the Persian Empire was his. Alexander marched into the legendary cities of Babylon and Susa, seizing unimaginable wealth. At the Persian capital of Persepolis, he allowed his troops to loot the city before burning the grand palace to the ground, a symbolic act of revenge for the Persian invasion of Greece over a century earlier. The once great Achaemenid Empire was no more. But Alexander wasn't finished. His thirst for glory and discovery was insatiable. He believed the world ended somewhere just beyond Persia, and he wanted to see it. He pushed his army further east into modern-day Afghanistan and Pakistan, fighting grueling campaigns in harsh mountain terrain against fierce local tribes. It was in India, at the Battle of the Hydaspes River in 326 BC, that he faced his most challenging opponent yet, King Porus and his army of war elephants. The Macedonian horses were terrified of the massive beasts, but Alexander's tactical genius won the day again. Although he was victorious, he was so impressed by Porus's bravery that he allowed him to keep his kingdom, making him an ally. After this battle, Alexander wanted to march on to the Ganges River, but his army had finally reached its limit. After 8 years and thousands of miles of marching and fighting, his loyal but exhausted soldiers refused to go any further. For the first time, Alexander had to relent. He agreed to turn back. The return journey was a disaster. Splitting his forces, Alexander led one contingent through the brutal Gedrosian desert, where thousands died from heat and starvation. He finally returned to Babylon in 324 BC, a changed man. He began adopting Persian customs, wearing Persian dress, and encouraging his men to marry Persian women, a policy of fusion he hoped would unite his vast new empire. This was unpopular with his proud Macedonian veterans, who felt he was abandoning his roots. Then, in June of 323 BC, while planning his next campaign into Arabia, Alexander fell ill after a long banquet. After 10 days of fever and agony, Alexander the Great, the undefeated conqueror of the known world, died. He was just 32 years old. The cause of his death remains one of history's great mysteries. Was it malaria, typhoid, or poison? We may never know for sure. On his deathbed, when asked who should inherit his vast empire, he is said to have whispered, "To the strongest." This answer, or perhaps the lack of a clear heir, plunged his empire into 50 years of civil war as his generals, the Diadochi, fought to carve up his legacy. Alexander's empire shattered almost as quickly as he had built it, yet his legacy is immeasurable. He didn't just conquer lands, he connected cultures. His conquests spread Greek language, art, and ideas across a vast area, kicking off what we now call the Hellenistic Age, a vibrant period of cultural fusion that shaped the world for centuries and laid the groundwork for the Roman Empire. He was a brilliant general, a visionary leader, and a man driven by an unquenchable fire. His life was a shooting star that burned brighter than any other, and though it was brief, its light continues to illuminate the pages of history. What do you think? Was Alexander a hero who brought civilization to the world, or a tyrant who left a trail of destruction? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next adventure. See you next time.